Hi, I'm Chef Michael Allemeier, and I had a friend of mine reach out and ask me, how do you cook porchetta? Well, you know what? I love challenges and I love to help my friends. So I thought, how fun would it be to do this video to show people how to prepare the perfect porchetta? So let's start with, what is porchetta? So it's a pork product. Now there's a lot of different types of interpretations out there. You can bone out a whole pig, grind up the legs, turn that into sausage, and then put that back into the pork. That's a lot of work. What I'm gonna do is show you the one method that is really used quite a bit, and that's using a whole pork loin and the belly. So naturally, the belly of the pig is attached to the loin. As you can see, this works really, really well here. All right, and the beauty of it is, check it out, it actually rolls up really, really nicely, just like that. Now the belly, of course, is what bacon is made out of, and on the outside, we've got this tougher skin, and this is the skin of the beast. Don't be alarmed by any type of tattoos or stamps that you see on there. These are all done as part of the inspection process, and they're all made out of a plant-based vegetable dye, so it's perfectly fine to consume. But what we need to do is I need to denature the skin. So denature, what's that mean? So if we weren't to treat the skin, what would happen is this skin, when we cook it, would become like boilerplate, and it would just be almost impossible to eat. So there's a couple of good little tricks. The first thing I want to do is I want to take a sharp knife, or a carving fork works really well. And what you want to do is you want to literally stab the skin, and you want to put in as many holes as you can. The more you stab it, the better this will denature the skin. And it's really important that we do break up the nature of the skin, because in a perfect world, what we want is the skin to turn into this light, airy, crispy, delicious style of crackling. All right, now I have literally put in a couple of 100 holes into the crackling skin here, and what that's going to do is when it cooks, that's going to help break it up, but more importantly, that's going to help render any fat that's underneath the skin as well. Now, it's very important to remember that you need to process the skin the day before you want to cook it. So this is going to be for tomorrow's dinner, so of course I'm going to start today on this. So I'm going to flip it over. Here's the loin, here's the belly, and what I want to do is I want to season this. So I've got some kosher salt, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sprinkle the kosher salt directly on to the meat like this. Now, whenever you've got large muscles of meat like this, if you can deeply season them before you cook it, that's just going to bring a lot more flavor to the product. Now I want this to have a lot more flavor, so what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of additional spice to this. What this is my shawarma mix, and I love the flavor of shawarma. It's very earthy, it's very honest, and it works really, really well with the richness of this lovely cut of meat. So what I'm going to do is just liberally sprinkle this on. Probably, what have I got here? Probably close to 5 or 6 tablespoons worth of this. But the trick is just to make sure that it is evenly sprinkled over the meat like this. And this is going to sit overnight on the meat, and it's going to deeply season it, which of course is going to make it absolutely fantastic. So kosher salt, a little bit of shawarma spice, or whatever spice mix that you love, the flavors that you want to chase. All right, onto the meat side, and then I'm going to very carefully just flip it over like this. Okay, this is just a regular roasting tray, and that's gonna stay just like that. Now, I've put lots of holes, I've pricked the crackling skin here, but there's one more little trick that I need to do in order to help denature this. And this is probably the most important step. What I've got here is 2 tablespoons of kosher salt. All right, that's 1/8 of a cup. And then what I've got here is just regular white vinegar. And I'm going to add 4 teaspoons, which is 1/4 cup of white vinegar to that. And what it does is creates this little slurry. All right, I prefer kosher salt for this. And now the trick is, I want to rub all of this vinegar and salt solution onto the crackling. Now, I was talking earlier about denaturing the skin. So by pricking the holes, I've compromised the integrity of the crackling, which is important for the roasting process. But what this salt and vinegar solution does is really denatures, and it really does break down the skin. And that's what's going to result in that chicharron, puffy, crispy style, lovely crackling elements, which makes porchetta such a joy to eat. My belly has nipples on it. Don't worry if it has nipples. All pigs have nipples, and they're absolutely delicious. If they bother you, just cut them off if you want. I'm not going to. There we go. So that's absolutely awesome. So I didn't use it all, but you can see it's liberally on there. And then I'm just going to just a little bit more salt on like this. Not a lot, just as if I'm lightly seasoning it. All right, just like this. Perfect, just rub that in like that. All right, then that's it for today. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this in the fridge overnight uncovered, because you want this lovely salt and vinegar solution to evaporate and dry out. And as it's evaporating and drying out and forming like a pellicle style crust, it's going to really denature and it's going to weaken the integrity of that skin. So when it cooks, it's going to puff up really nicely and it's going to be super delicious. Well, I love cooking my porchetta with charcoal. And what we've got here is lovely maple charcoal, that beautiful Canadian charcoal. This is how I like to start my fire, just by using a blowtorch, holding it in a spot like this, and really gets the coals going. Very neutral flavor, very easy, and quite frankly, just a lot of fun as well. So it's cook day for the porchetta. So I'm going to be doing mine over charcoal in my rotisserie. So what I love about the rotisserie is it spins the meat around nicely, bastes everything really well. I've got the grill going. It's all lit. So what I like to do is start the coals first, and then as the coals are burning and developing, then I can come into the kitchen and start working on the porchetta. So taking a look at this down here, this has aged overnight. It's denatured. The skin looks and feels much softer than it was yesterday, which is fantastic. So what I'm gonna do now is take it off the tray, and I'm gonna flip it with the skin down, just like that. And you can see that shawarma spice on there is just, it's perfect. It's that nice crusty paste. So this is the spit that I've got over here. And what I wanna do is put the spit through the loin muscle, but kind of towards the end of it, like that. All right, so what I'm gonna do is, you can't really be squeamish about it. There's only one real way to do it, and you gotta kind of just push it through, just like that. Perfect. Now I'm gonna take this off. There's just a bit of a spacer of where I think it needs to be. Perfect, that looks great. And now, it's a simple matter of rolling this up just like so. So that looks really good. Now the trick with this is, you want to, when you roll it nice and tight. We want to make sure that this is really nice and tight on here. Okay, so now I've got some butcher string here. We're going to get some butcher string underneath it like this. And Time to tie it up nice and tight. Just like that. That looked awesome. And I'm going to do that a couple times. And this butcher string works really well. Keeps it in place, survives the heat, which is nice. And I reckon I'm going to do probably 4 of them. And just do the last one. And what the string does is just really helps secure the meat and helps, more importantly, just helps define the shape as well during the cooking process. All right, perfect, that looks good. Now, these final spikes will do a great job of holding the meat on. And what I want to do, there we go, is there's larger prongs, and I really want to make sure that I've got a good purchase with the large prongs into the meat. Just like that. And this side over here, same thing. So I've got a bit of the belly into the loin, and that really just secures everything. Then it's just a simple matter of getting the coals ready, and then we'll take it to the coals. Yeah, look at those coals. This is hot. All right, so here, what I want to do now is I want to, this is really hot. Super hot, in fact. So what I want to do is I want to push the coals up on the north and the south side. I can't even begin to express how volcanic hot this is. Woo, just like that. Perfect. So I'm going to trench down the center. That's what we want, and heat on each side of it. So I'm going to close this down, and I'm going to choke it off a little bit because we want a relatively cool temperature. So right now this thing is racing past 400 degrees. I'm going to choke it down so it's around 350, and that's ultimately 350 to 400 is what I'm actually looking for. This is a great looking porchetta. Things to remember when you put on the spit: make sure that your prongs are in squarely. I always like to ensure that I've got my prongs into large muscles. It really helps stabilize it. Your string is tied evenly and nice and tight. Other side looks really well as well. That looks great, looks great. And it's important that you center it on your spit as well. Alrighty, that's a good looking porchetta. Nice and tight on the spit. I've got the coals underneath. There's no coals directly underneath, but I've got them flanked up in the north and south parts of the beast. And now it's just a simple matter of letting it spin. So I want to spin it. It's probably about 350, maybe 400 depending on your grill, but air on the lower temperature till it hits about 115 to 120 Fahrenheit. At 115 to 120 Fahrenheit, that's when we're going to let her rip, and that's when we want to make sure that we crisp everything up really, really nicely. We want to ultimately get it to about 134, 135 Fahrenheit, and then we're going to take it off. A big joint of meat like this is going to need some time to seriously rest when it's done. All right, so this porchetta has hit 120 internal now, and I've opened up all of the vents, which means we're gonna pop and we're gonna start working on that crackling. It's already looking amazing. So now I'm gonna cook this to an internal of 135 Fahrenheit. All right, this just hit an internal temperature of 135, so now it needs a rest. Big joints of meat like this needs a big rest. The larger the cut, the longer the rest time, because it allows temperatures to equalize, juices to distribute, and really we want to keep it all together. It needs a big rest after all of this work. All right, so it is rested for about 40 minutes. Oh, listen to that sound. Listen to that sound. Oh, juicy porchetta. Look how juicy it is. So really, the trick is a serrated knife. You need a serrated knife to cut through that gorgeous, gorgeous crackling. Oh, man alive. Interesting fact here. Let's zoom in here. You see how the skin puffs up over the string. That is textbook. All right, time to eat this beast.